It's time for Push 2 Plat, your weekly trophy podcast with Mindi and Cj.
Hello, listeners. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good day. Welcome to episode 46. Mindi, how are you on this fine day?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Look, I am surviving. We have had probably the craziest summer weather-wise you can have here. If anyone that's been following, we've had massive bushfires all around Australia, only to be followed on the weekend by flooding. We've had some of the most rain, I think, in 5, 10 or something years. So, Minnie, it has been insane. But the good thing
But
is...
is it raining in the places that are on fire?
Yes, it rained everywhere. Like the country is basically flooded and destroyed in new and wonderful ways. But what I was going to say, the most amazing thing is normally when these things happen and these storms and the winds were crazy, we lose all power. And, so you're just like, back in the 18th century or something, reading a book with a candle. But this time the power didn't go out here, Mindi. So I actually got a full day to game. So I know I should feel a little guilty and bad for the people that, were struggling. But for me, it was actually quite nice.
That's good. I mean, I'm worried about, you lost something like 1 million animals in those wildfires.
Yes.
And then has it been on the human side? Has it been disastrous for people, or is it mostly just, out back and it's environmental stuff that has been lost?
Yeah, no, for the fires, it has been devastating around the country. I know that in America there's also been some massive fundraising and donations as well. So I know that you're well aware of it. I know it's been playing on the news and stuff like that over there. But it has been disastrous. We haven't had major fires in sort of 6 years, maybe with the exception of the Canberra fire. So everything was sort of on a knife edge, I think. And because this last year has been so dry here as well, it's just unbelievable. And I mean, even though where we are, we're sort of north of Sydney, we didn't have any immediate fires here, but everything was just so dry. Like you'd walk on the grass and it would almost come up. So anything could have gone up at any time. And look, anyone that's living in Australia will know in Melbourne or Sydney in particular that just the amount of smoke for the last 3 or 4 months, just every day. So I think it's been very tough for a lot of people, and it will continue to be very tough because unfortunately, in these situations, what starts to come out after the fact is that people didn't have adequate insurance, or perhaps they couldn't afford it, or whatever else, and so now there's all these issues as well. So it's not even about whether you had insurance and getting the money there. It's about what happens now for these people in community. But look, as I said, I know there's huge amounts of donations coming in, and I think it's just ironic that we've finally had the rains, which now helps. As you said, the people from the outback, it helps them hugely because a lot of them have been, in drought for years. Unfortunately, it hasn't hit everywhere, but it's hit a majority of areas, and it will rectify a lot of the problems. But I don't know. It's a funny country to live in, Mindy. We're very at its hands, I think, at its own mercy.
Well, you guys just straight up don't have ozone layer, right? Like there's a hole in the ozone layer and it's like right over Australia.
I've heard of this, yes. So yeah, I look, I don't know, but look, it's getting better. We don't want to cry foul, and I know there's huge amounts of money coming in from all around the world to help these people as well, which is fantastic. And also, Mindy, I understand we have an organisation here called Wires, which they sort of look after the animals in this situation, rehabilitate them and rehouse them, I suppose, or in the when the forest areas are recovered or whatever else, and they've been receiving huge donations, which is fantastic as well. So
I actually, my Facebook and stuff is everyone's just they're either putting donation numbers or I've seen this picture like this checklist a lot for like craft people. And again, this is more for animal rehabilitation because a lot of my friends are into that. How to make like pouches for kangaroos
mm,
or there's something specific for koalas. And it got where some organizations was like, please stop making these. Like apparently everyone was making like the same thing. and they're like, please make something else on the list.
I do like that. Yeah, it's sort of funny because like in these sort of situations, obviously, money and that sort of financial support is essential, but it is also as you say making things and people hours. And one of the big things that has been kicking off in the last couple of weeks here now is encouraging people to go out into the country areas to go out and see these people to help with the rebuilding, or even just to go out and buy a coffee and dinner and lunch to inject some life into their economies. So look, I feel that because if you have been in Melbourne or Sydney or Canberra, it's been very hard to get out in the last 2 months, just with the fires and things. So I feel this year there will be a lot of exploring of our great country from our citizens. So it's exciting. It's exciting to see. And look, this is a tangent I didn't expect to go on, Mindy, from our intro. So it's like, I just never know with you. I never know.
Starting it on a bit of a downer.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. This morning I was sitting there and I was like, we need something to just get us going today. And I was like, iguanas. I want to talk about the iguanas because I know this happened a few weeks ago, Mindy, but we didn't ever really touch on it. But these frozen iguanas in Florida that have been falling out of trees, it's probably stopped now. I don't know if it's still cold enough there, and just hitting people as they walk past. It's fantastic. So I'm not sure if you're across this or not, but
Yeah, down in Florida, I read about that. I was like, that's so weird. Yeah, the people are like, trying to help them, and they unfreeze in the car, and they just beat the crap out of people.
yeah, it's fantastic. Well, I found this great article in a Newsweek, newsweek.com there, and it was about, the title was, man shoots iguana, misses, or tries to shoot iguana, misses and shoots pool boy in the leg. And I was like, this is fantastic. And I read the whole article, and it had this great quote from some Florida native who's probably, Mindy, like 70 or 80, because my image of a Florida person is like on the golf course all day, 70 or 80 or whatever, just bringing their share portfolio and, maybe go to Disney World every now and then. But that's their sort of life, correct me if I'm wrong there.
Mhm.
And I so just imagine this sort of person giving the quote. And it was to the effect of, if we just all go around shooting at everything that moves here, it'll be like the Wild West and we'll kill each other. And I was like, God bless America. It's it's so different. But unfortunately, that article was written in 2019 at the beginning of the year. So I thought about appropriating it for now, but so it was a bit of a stretch, even for me, I feel, there, Minty. But look, let's deviate back here. Listen,
I have some iguana trivia for you.
please.
So iguanas are considered an invasive species. People get them for pets and then release them, and iguana can do pretty well, so they're taking over habitat they don't belong in.
Mm,
But some people, Latin America, they will eat iguana because iguana are very, very common,
mm.
and they're called the chicken of the tree.
Oh, the chicken of the tree. Oh, I like that. That is fantastic. I wonder what it would taste like.
So you know how tuna is the chicken of the sea? Now iguana is the chicken of the tree.
Oh, it's a white meat, perhaps. Excellent. Oh, that's good. Well, I heard a wonderful story too that the iguanas look out for each other. This was a personal story or something of how they, if they're running across the road and one gets hit, quite often another one will come and try and drag its iguana bro. I was told that's the term, iguana bro, across the street. So that's beautiful or whatever. And look at that, Mindy. I've
Oh no, you want to talk, species that look out for each other. Look at like corvids, like crows.
yes.
Like people who do research with crows, specifically like when they screw with their eggs, they have to go in masks that look like someone else
Oh,
because crows will remember.
yes.
Like they will remember your face and communicate with other crows. There have been accounts of researchers not doing this and then getting attacked by different crows.
Oh.
Like it's insane.
That's fantastic. Look, I think we're gonna we're gonna deviate, but we're on the animals there. So I just have one more that I want to throw at you, Mindy, because I know that you told me the other week you introduced me to this podcast, but I think you're a little behind. You're busy with other things. There's no such thing as a fish, and they recently talked.
That's a great I love that I'm super behind, but I love that podcast. I've been with them since the beginning.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and they did this segment or whatever on eels, and I didn't know this, and I'm going to show my ignorance here because I forget where the eel comes from. It's a certain sea in the world, and they were talking about how no
Mhm.
one's ever seen an eel reproduce or like in the wild, like they somehow just do it, like, and it's never been documented, like actually seen, but now they're starting to track them. But all the eels, they always go back to this particular sea, before they sort of die or whatever else, and also to procreate or whatever. But they were saying, and this is insane, that even the eels in captivity, even though they've never been there, like they've been born, somewhere else, they want to go there. And so they will actually, if you release them, they will still find their way there. Isn't that like insane? They just know. I find that amazing.
That's a little
Oh, it's,
creepy, actually.
it's hugely creepy. It's hugely creepy. But look, anyway, listeners, isn't that
Hey,
fantastic?
remember when this was a video game
It was.
podcast?
It was. Could you imagine if we got Eel Simulator and that was part of that was the game? If anyone wants to make that, go for it. I think that would be fantastic.
Unobtainable trophy, figure out how you reproduce.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's wonderful, isn't it? The world is a wonderful place. But let's turn our attention back to gaming, PlayStation, and all this sort of business. Listeners, just before we do, we've got a little bit of housekeeping. If you're a close member of the community, you might already know that we have launched a spin-off podcast, Push2Plat Level Cap. This is now available on all good podcast providers. It's also on our main YouTube channel. It is on a separate feed, so if it interests you, you will have to subscribe separately. It is with myself and Cool Kid Joe. It is a 30-minute short format trophy and achievement based podcast. So unlike here where we're conversational, we talk about eels, Mindi, and iguanas. There it's just pure bang, 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 straight down the line trophies and achievements with some dirty little tips that I would not want to sully your reputation with, Mindi. Uh, over there. So please give that a look at. The other piece of news is that we will be launching a Patreon to start in March. The Patreon will be up within the next week or so. So you can have a look at it, have a think about it or whatever, but it's not accepting any monies, I suppose you would say, or pledges until March. There are going to be various tiers there, but look, the overall tier, of course, is the fact that you're supporting us. We are not going to be locking any of our content behind this, so you will still get the regular Push2Plat podcast and also our P2P Level Cap podcast. But, Mindi, there has been a running joke about an After Dark episode at some point. Well, how are we feeling? Do you think this could be on the cards as a tier type of reward?
Maybe. Maybe give them the first hit for free and see what happens.
Yeah, well, we will definitely look into that. So there will be some rewards there if you like, listeners. Without boring you and spilling and putting the hard sell on you. Obviously, it costs a lot of money to run a podcast. It costs perhaps slightly more to run ours because we're using software that allows us to talk with people all around the world. Any monies that do come in as donations will go straight back into the running of the show and continuing to grow the community. Obviously, I understand that not everyone is in the position to donate. So you are helping us just by listening and spreading the word. And of course, you can do that by leaving a comment on iTunes, on YouTube, on any good podcast provider, coming and subbing. Even if you sub on YouTube, even if you don't listen to it there, it all helps us out. And of course, you can come and say hi on Twitter. But look, Mindi, I feel like I'm almost about to wrap up the episode and we haven't even started. So let's start. And why don't we start with this question? Now, this is something I don't know about you. This question came in from Beastie a while ago, and he wanted to know about the origins of your name, The Mind is a City, and a
Yeah.
more in-depth story about it. So, first off, could I ask you, how do you like it said? Because I don't know if you like it said long form like that, or the mendicity, or what do you prefer?
No, it's the mind is a city. It always was meant to be the mind is a city.
Mhm.
It's funny. I go by, I used to tell people my name, first name, and I still will, but way back my Uncharted PS3 days, I was playing Uncharted 2 online, and someone in my party kept calling me Mindy and thought my name was Mindy. So I was like, that's a good one to stick with, I guess.
There's nothing wrong with it.
I hear a lot of people think my name is the Mindiacity, like Mindy's
Oh.
something, like tenacity or, something like that. It's not. It really is just the
Mm.
mind is a city. So this is kind of twofold. When I was in probably a freshman in high school, I checked out this random book from the library. I don't even remember how I came around it about it because it wasn't a big name author, it wasn't a kind of a spotlit book or anything. But it's called Amnesia by this guy named Douglas Cooper, and it's a really good book. I really, really like it. But there was a quote really early on And one of the characters says, "The mind is like a city. If you can remember this, then you can remember all things." And he attributed that to Freud. And I don't think that's quite true. But again, I don't put a lot of stock in Freud. I think he's a yeah. So, but I did always remember that. And then around the same time, we were doing poetry. We were doing poetry studies, and we had a poem. I read a poem by Delmore Schwartz called Narcissus, and it's called "The Mind is an Ancient and Famous Capital." And the first lines of it are, "The mind is a city like London, smoky and populous. It's a capital like Rome, ruined and eternal, marked by the monuments which no one now remembers." And I just kind of, you're, 14 at that point, and you just kind of get obsessed with and you're all angsty. And I got my Gmail invite, because I'm showing my age here. Back then, you had to to get a Gmail, you had to know someone, like you had to be sent an invite for Google Mail. You couldn't just go to Gmail and sign up for it. Like you had to get a that was what I picked, was The Mind is a City.
Mm.
And that's just kind of been carrying me through. So, not the most exciting story, but it's mine.
Oh no, I disagree. Yeah, that's interesting. I had no idea. I think the name suits you well too. I mean, the games that you prefer to play, these adventure games, these the puzzlers, the point and clicks. It's all I know your love for those games must have come before the name, but it almost feels like they're hand in hand. I don't
Maybe
know.
maybe that influenced a bit, but no, I've played point and clicks since I was
Mm, mm.
too young to play them.
Yeah, no, no, I know.
I no, I distinctly remember we had one of the King's Quest games, one of the text parser King's Quest games on the family computer, and I I didn't really know how to type, like,
Mm.
fast enough that you're supposed to, and I'd have to have my older siblings type the stuff so we could play the game, because I was like a hunt and peck typer, like I'd never learned how to type. So definitely have been playing it a lot longer than I've had this name.
Yeah. And do you do you like being called Mindy now, the abbreviation of it, or are there abbreviations of it you've heard that you dislike, or are you fairly relaxed?
No, I'm pretty relaxed. I either, if people abbreviate, they either say TMIAC, which is fine,
Mm.
Mindy, which is fine. Sometimes I get City, which is fine.
There's
Um,
another one too, isn't
every
there?
once in a while I get Sassity, and I just think that's weird.
Do you? I was wondering if you're going to bring that one up.
Like, I guess I don't mind it per se, but I'm like, of all the things you could have abbreviated, you picked that chunk. That's
Yes,
weird.
I like you took my, line there, Sassy, very nice. Okay, good, good, good. Yeah, I was going there if you didn't, so well played. Look, that's good, and look, for my name, we actually talked about this, Mindy, on another podcast, but just in case people haven't heard, I think we should let them in on the secret that when you first started as a host, so this is going back quite some time, it's almost going back a year, listeners. Mindy decided to expand my vocabulary on my suggestion, because she's a very very intelligent woman, as you know, and we decided to play this game equally, where we would find a word each week, Mindy, if you remember, and just so we could
We don't
basically.
play it anymore. We should.
No, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Well, look, I can only handle so many words. I think I'm still reeling from that. But we got some fantastic words. Some were even provided by guests. Because I don't know if you find this, listeners, but I do a bit of reading. I listen to people talk, and almost every day, or at least a couple of times a week, I'll hear a word that I've never heard before, and my brain goes, "Oh, I wonder if that's even a word to start with," because I like making up words too. And then if it is, like, what does it mean, and how can I get it in my recall? So we were sort of doing that or whatever else, and I happened to be marking some university essays, and someone had used the word affectation, which I'd never really come across, and they used it in a very amusing way, in a musical example, which is not really appropriate, but it is also highly amusing as well. Sort of you have to imagine the overeducated 22-year-old mind. They have a lot of these things, a lot of time to think of these things or whatever. So I looked it up and I thought, affectatious means sort of fake, pretentious, all for show, egotistically driven, shallow, a fool in effect or whatever. So I thought, well, that's a pretty good name, but it needs something to go with it. And then donk, of course, which, look, I didn't know, Mindy, until I spoke to Daryl, but apparently a donk is a type of car in America, like an old car. I don't know if you're familiar with that or if it's only in parts of America.
I think he said it's like specifically a southern term because I'd never heard it when he brought that up.
Yes, yeah. Well, look, I'm in the South. God knows what's going down there. So yeah, so it probably is some type of car. But anyway, in Australia or whatever, it's a term that they refer to usually in card games, particularly in poker. If you play this, as a bad player, a fool, an idiot, and this sort of stuff. So I thought running the two together worked perfectly, and it also fitted in to the into the PlayStation name, and also no one had it, which is unsurprising, I think. So look, I love it, and the best thing is some people on my friends list, I don't think they know what it means or whatever else, but some people do, and I get these random messages every now and then going, "Oh, your name is hilarious, blah blah blah. I love it." You really are a pretentious fool, which is equally acceptable as well. So look, it's funny, Mindy, but both our names have quite a lot of meaning behind them, I think. So I think that's interesting. The only thing maybe we could add, Mindy, is that the name you've always had on your account? I know you haven't changed, so.
It is the name I've always had, but I know yours wasn't. If I recall correctly, when I was a guest, you said that your original PSN name had something to do with the not the Lord of the Rings, the Robert Jordan books, Wheel of Time.
Yeah, yeah, which I can't remember if you said you'd read some or not of the Wheel of Time saga. Are you?
I tried.
Yeah.
I have a hard time getting into high fantasy. It's just a lot of people to keep track of.
Oh, especially with that series.
And sometimes I can and sometimes I really can't, and I really did try with Wheel of Time because all of my friends were
Yeah,
reading it, and, like, they were
yeah.
really into it, and I
Yeah.
couldn't.
It was a massive I'm trying to think, it must have been like the early 90s, I think, that, again, showing our age, perhaps early 90s when I was reading that as a young person and a very young person. And I thought it was fantastic or whatever. But I remember them being massive, massive thick books or whatever to read. And I believe I read there was a ton of them. I read quite a lot, but then I believe he died, I think. And then his son, I believe it is, took over. And I think he's still writing under either his father's name or there's some joint name. So I mean, there's so many now you'd never be able to keep up. But yeah, that's right. So, but I think I think that just came about because I don't know. I had nothing else at the time, but I think this is more fitting. So look, I hope, Beastie, we somehow threw some light there on your question. And of course, listeners, if you have a question about anything and you want to submit, you can do that via our Discord or of course on Twitter or via email as well. Please let us know. We're happy to.
And personal note, Easty, I know I don't think CJ knows, but I know that you recently just had a really bad car accident, so we are
Oh,
hoping you're doing okay. I mean, we know you're not in the hospital or anything because you have gotten in touch with me and you said you're okay, but we're thinking of you and we hope to hear from you again soon because you've kind of disappeared and we're worried. Come back.
I didn't realize that. Yeah, yeah. My thoughts go out to you. So I hope you're recovering well. And I hope I hope you can maybe we can help you pass the time.
I'm just a big old
Hopefully.
downer this week, aren't I?
No, no, no. Look, no, no, no. I didn't know that. So that is fantastic, fascinating. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So, Mindy, I think it's time. We're substantially into the podcast now. We probably should mention a game at some point. So why don't we start with you? What have you been playing this week?
Death Stranding.
Oh, I thought we were going to talk about a game, but fair enough. Fair enough. Well, jokes aside, do you think you'll ever actually play that game?
No.
I didn't think so. Yeah. I'm going to wait for the Telltale reboot version where you can do it in like 4 or 5 hours because I think that would be enough. That would be enough for me. But look, okay. So, what have you actually been playing this week?
What have I actually been playing? Not a ton. We're little behind the scenes thing. This is actually we have recorded a podcast that's supposed to go out this week. That is still in editing, so that's going out next week. So I kind of covered most of what I played in the last podcast we recorded, but I have played a couple things since then. I played old school spam, I played the NCIS game on PS3.
This is great to see someone still playing this. Also, that you haven't played it till now. How did that happen?
I told you, dude, like a bunch of the old school PS3 spam I have not played.
I'm just looking at the list here, and you're not the only one. There's a guy here that played it the other day. A couple of people that have played it in the last week. So it's still getting love. It's
Mhm.
it's still out there. What did you think?
I think the CSI games are better, but they're all kind of the same. I will tell
Mm.
you, there's one annoying part in every case, and it's this GPS tracking part where you have to hold the and it's timed. It wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't timed, but you have to hold the cursor over
Oh,
a dot like a that represents the car driving. And it's fine for the first two cases, and then the third case, the car zigzags like crazy, and it's like near impossible to keep this cursor. I must have tried it 8 or 9 times before I got it. And I was like, "Am I just that old?" And, I went and looked on the forums for the game, and it was, like, just people complaining about it. I was like, "Oh, thank God, it's not just me."
Is this game? I know there's CSI games. I never played them, but from memory, I understand they could potentially be glitchy in spots. Other than what you're mentioning there, is this glitchy itself, or is it okay?
No, everything popped where it was supposed to.
Oh, good, good.
I think you're right. I think one of the CSI games is a little glitchy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about you putting in the show notes, like, games covered this week, NCIS.
Well, I don't know. Did you ever watch the show? I was a big fan of this show. So when I found out there was a game, I got on this and played it. Admittedly, it was probably still late, but I quite enjoyed this. But I don't know. It probably is predicated on whether you watch the show a bit as well, I suppose, your enjoyment.
I think it does, 'cause I didn't watch NCIS, but I did watch CSI
Ah, yeah.
Vegas, and I played all of those,
Yes. Yeah.
on the computer, and then when I started trophy hunting, I picked those up and played them.
Now, okay, so we'll just sidebar here. So CSI Vegas. Now, I didn't think I watched this one. I watched the one, I want to say Miami, but I'm not sure if it was that
Mm.
one. The one, and it had the really like funky lighting, but the guy with the orange hair, again, I don't know his name. And there were just some unbelievable one liners. That show was just so off the wall in its fake seriousness or quasi cheese factor. I don't know. But the others were serious, weren't they? Well, more serious, I think, shows.
I mean, to a point.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're all pretty bloody and whatnot, but they all had their stupid one-liners as well.
Yes. Yeah. I'll never forget that show I watched. I didn't watch many episodes, but one where someone had released a shark, a man-eating shark, into a swimming pool of a hotel, and they were sort of keeping it in the filter box area, and then the shark would get out and attack someone every now and then. It was it was crazy insane. But anyway, maybe I should play the games. Imagine if that was. What else would you like to throw out?
I played Uncanny Valley. This was free on Plus a little
Ah,
while ago. It's a pixelated horror game. Yeah, I don't know about this one. I think I see what they were trying to do with it. It feels like it's not finished. It just kind of stops. And so I don't know if it's meant to be if they're trying to go Lovecraftian and just do a spot, a snapshot of this guy's life, and you're not supposed to know anything, or you're not supposed to be able to figure things out. I don't think that was intentional. I think it's just confusing. But Velvet wrote a good walkthrough for it. Get you all the trophies. And it's short.
would you recommend playing it or?
If you got it for free or if you got it for cheap, I mean, you could do worse than getting was 1, 2, 3, 4, guys, like 12 rare trophies in about 3
Oh,
hours.
okay, okay. And this is PS4 or Vita, I see. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So is this, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about this. I think we are. Well, if we're not, you can shut me down and I won't edit it. Is this to do these rare trophies with this event you were doing then? Was this the game?
Yes, so there was a so on PlayStation trophies there's something called there are these mini events called QTEs, quick time events, where the whole idea is whatever you need to do, you have to do it between the day it's announced, which is usually a Thursday, and to the following Sunday. So
Yes.
for this one specifically, it was you need to earn 20 points worth of rare trophies. So if a trophy is rare, it's 1 point. If it's very rare, it's 2 points, and if it's ultra rare, it's 3 points. I saw that and I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, that should be fairly easy for me to do."
So you met the goals. You're through to the next round. Is there another round? Is that how this works? Or
There is not another
oh,
round.
okay.
You either do it or you
Oh,
don't.
okay. So you were successful in your endeavors here. I don't know if you've seen this, Mindy. The True Trophies have started their next competition. I know you partook in their one over December, the 12 days of Christmas. I don't know if you've seen this one. This one is based on, look, I don't understand. There's a lot of different stats on that site, but it's based on their True Trophy point. I suppose it's a difficulty point or something. I'm not sure how that's calculated for each trophy. So it basically it's a 2 week event where you have to earn a trophy every day. So that's a bit intense, I think, for some people. But whatever. Um, but then it's not only earning a trophy every day. You start off and the trophy you can earn like an easy trophy, like a 1 value, which I assume is any trophy. But then every day it goes up by 0.2, so you have to earn like a 1.02 or 1.2 or something, 1.4. So I think by the end, you've got to earn like a 2.5 or a 2.7. And I was looking at it and like, because these numbers don't mean a lot to me, but like a 2.7 is like a pretty tough trophy. Like that would be an ultra rare, uh, and a tougher ultra rare trophy. So I don't know if something like that interests you, Mindy, or not. It sounds very hard actually, to be honest with you, but I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, I looked at it. I don't think I'm gonna do it. I have a suspicion. I don't know for sure, but oh no, actually I do know for sure because they just announced it. But I know that
Mm.
uh PlayStation Trophies is doing a Valentine's event and I it's just too much to juggle, I think. So I decided to go with the Valentine's event and not this one.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah, only reason I bring it up is I know I was a little critical of True Trophies in December. Some of the community around that event was interesting, and even the site itself, I think perhaps not totally set up to run that at that point in some of the things they put. Although they did rectify many of those things very quickly, but I'm always happy to go back and reassess things. And this time I noticed, Mindy, that they're actually offering prizes, which I know is nothing new on the True Achievement side, but this is not common or this hasn't happened before, I believe, on the True Trophy side, and they're offering like I think first place, or if someone manages to get this 2.7 or whatever in every day, they get a year's subscription to the site, and if it's I think a 6 month subscription for second, and something 3 months for third. So I think that's really good, and I'm more than happy to you know to throw some love on that now, because I think that's a great incentive, and also because it's not cheap to be a member of that site for a year, Mindy. So it's a nice thing.
Yeah, I kind of unless you get a ton of stuff for membership, I don't understand why. First of all, why it's so high.
Yes.
It's if it was that price for like a lifetime, then I might think about it.
Mm.
Because what was PSNP? PSNP lifetime membership's like $20, right?
Yeah, it might have even been less than that, but didn't know more than that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And True Trophies is like it's like $40 a year, something like that.
yeah, yeah. It's a hard one because I really like the stats on that side, on the True Trophies site, but I mean, not enough to pay the 40, as you say, I suppose. So maybe I'm part of the problem. I don't know, but yeah, but I mean, look, it's a step in the right direction. If they're going to invest that money back in prizes and things, that's something that's good. So look, and
Mm.
far be it for me to know what it costs to maintain a site like this. It's very secretive and stuff. So maybe that's what it takes. Who knows? Who knows? Would there be another thing you'd like to throw at us, Mindy?
Well, just for the rare thing again, I got some more trophies in King's Quest, so I'm slowly but surely cleaning that up. And then the last thing I've played, yeah, the last thing I've played is oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you about this King's Quest. So, because I'm just looking at your trophies, and look, I'm hoping that you inspire me to play this at some point before you finish it. Well, you don't have to do anything. I have to inspire myself from seeing you playing it, I feel. But I just noticed you've got trophies from all over the place, but not chapter
Mhm,
4. Does that mean you just didn't play? Have you
mhm.
played the whole game, or are you sort of just jumping around chapters?
Well, this is my second time playing it. This is a
Oh,
stack.
okay. I didn't realize.
So you can choose whatever chapter you want at any point, and there's 4 different save slots that you can play around with. So I've just been jumping
Okay.
as needed. So I played episode I think 2 because out of the ones I had left, it had the most rare trophies in it. So I just kind of
Yeah.
played it through.
Okay, can I ask one more question about this, if this is okay? So I haven't
No.
played this. No, it's not okay. Well, I'm going to ask it either way. Uh, you can just ignore it. What was I going to say? I played a bit of this when it released. Now it's all out and all this stuff. Are there guides for all the chapters now, or not?
There are. There's I know the PSMP guide that Zador wrote actually
Oh,
only covers the first episode, and I don't think there were any follow-up guides. Over on .org, there's not only a trophy guide for the whole game, but there are walkthroughs for the whole game.
mhm.
And no, I did not write either of them.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Because I remember from what I played, I think I played the first chapter without a guide or anything, obviously, and maybe got like one trophy. And then I sort of had a look, and a lot of them were for doing stuff that you may not have realized you had to do. I don't know if that, or maybe I just didn't realize. So I think a
Yeah,
guide would
well, a lot of
have helped.
them, a lot of those trophies reward you for being an adventure gamer.
Mm,
A lot of them are things that people who play a lot of point and clicks would think about doing,
yeah. Oh, well, that makes sense, I suppose.
or they're just Easter eggs to other King's Quest games, which is pretty great too.
Yeah, it's fun. It is a fantastic game. I will have to. I will have to go back. And sorry, I think I cut you off. You had another one.
Oh no, the last thing I've played is Assassin's Creed Chronicles on the Vita.
Mm.
So my Vita's getting a bit of a workout. It's like, what is this? You're playing a game with action on me? You're not playing a visual novel or a you're playing an action game that utilizes all the buttons?
Does that exist on the Vita? Oh, you can. I'm shocked. Maybe if they'd more and more of those games, it would still be with us today.
I love my Vita. Don't diss the Vita.
Hang on a second. We're talking Assassin's Creed, but you're talking Chronicles. Now, this is basically the ugly red-headed stepchild of the Assassin's Creed series, isn't it? Like, I mean, what is this?
So the Chronicles games they get a lot of hate, and I don't think they should. They're definitely not if you want your big fix, you're probably not gonna get that here. I don't hate it. I think it was an interesting idea. They're just these kinda shorter, like 2.5D side-scrolling Assassin's Creed games. And I think you'd enjoy it more if you looked at it more like it there's a heavy puzzle element to it. Just figuring out, you know, guard
Mm,
patrol patterns and things like that. But it is rather cheap sometimes. There's a lot of split-second timing you need to do in it,
mm,
which is annoying, but there are also a lot of checkpoints in it to kinda help alleviate that. But it is kind of unfair in, like, auto-scrolling sections where you're like, "Well, this character did not do what I just told it to do, and now I have died through no fault of my own." So I understand why people can hate the gameplay from that perspective, but I think it gets more hate than it deserves.
okay. Yeah, I know this is a pretty reasonable price as well. This game, isn't it? Now, I mean, you can often pick it up for a few dollars.
I don't know what it costs now. I bought this when it came out, I think when it came out was when I got my Vita copy, and I did this on PS4 a couple of years ago. But I originally picked this up for that PlayStation Trophies event,
Mm.
and then I started remembering because I did all these on PS4. I started remembering certain parts, and I was like, I don't know if I want to sync this onto my trophy log unless I know I can do it on my Vita, which is why I started with the last game, with the Russia game.
Okay. Okay. I'm not convinced myself, but that's interesting to hear because, as you say, I don't. Well, I suppose there is some hate, but it's just I don't hear a lot about that at all. That game, so that's interesting. Maybe one to add, listeners.
I mean, if you're interested and you're worried about putting all of those trophies on, they came out as 3 different 100% lists on the PS4.
Hmm.
So, China and India and Russia. If you were to try any of the 3, I would say probably India is the easiest of the 3 trophy lists,
Hmm.
or easiest of the 3 games, I should say. I would say in terms of an easy trophy list is Russia, but Russia is also the hardest game. So I would say India is the best balance you're gonna get there to figure out whether or not you like it. And, if you're worried about your percentages or
Hmm.
whatever, you're putting on 15 trophies as opposed to 50 with the
Mm.
consolidated pack with the platinum.
It's a good tip. Good too. Yeah. And I suppose technically, I know that you're working through, or you've basically worked through the whole series. So this is, well, I don't know. I mean, we still have this debate today, live and raging about Lego. But is this game part of the Assassin's Creed series? Would you say, or do you not consider this?
No, it is. There's
Oh,
actually
good.
something kind of cool. We still need to get an Assassin's Creed guy on here because I have played all the games and I can't track the thing anymore. I really can't.
No.
But in all 3 games, there are little assassin symbols. There's, like, 3 or 4 in each game, and if you put on the eagle vision, it reveals a number. And then at the end of Assassin's Creed Russia, I don't know if it's at the end of all 3, but I know at the end of Russia, when you beat the game, it takes you to a code input screen. And if you put in all of these numbers that you found in all of the games, there's, like, a 2-minute movie that ties into, Assassin's Creed, Rogue, because it talks about Shay McCormick.
Oh, okay.
So it is in the canon. And I
Yeah, yeah.
think, now that I think about it, I think the girl you play as in Assassin's Creed Chronicles China is the same girl that's in the epilogue movie about Ezio. Like, she shows up to get training from him.
Okay.
That Did you ever watch that? It's called, like, Embers or something, and it's like an animated movie.
No, I haven't seen it.
It's like a 15-minute thing that was on
Okay.
PlayStation 4. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's the same character. She shows up to old Ezio and it's like, "Hey, train me." And he's
Oh.
like, "Well, okay." And then she goes off and has her own game.
See, what I wonder, see, I think about this sometimes, listeners, which is alarming in its own right. But I wonder, Mindy, at UB, I'm imagining they have this massive conference room somewhere, the Assassin's Creed room, and just these like whole massive wall of storyboards, if you like. It's sort of like a murder detective police station or something, and just photos and storylines all just linked with just pieces of red string going everywhere because and then possibly underneath it, just in capital letters on a printout, just the word "fuck it," basically, because nobody really knows what's going on anymore. But there's just enough, as you say, little links that we're given the illusion that somebody knows what's happening. Do you think that's possible?
I don't think they do. I think they did before Ezio became super popular and all of a sudden they had a couple more games to churn out for him. I think they had a plan and I think it got blown away. I do remember when they announced they're gonna do the Assassin's Creed Encyclopedia, which I think I still have around here somewhere. I remember them putting out a call for fans. They're like, "We're looking for 2 fans to help us write this." And I'm like, "You mean you're looking for fans to write this because you don't
That's
remember,
right.
do you?" And, like, you know that fans remember everything.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, you're looking for those hardcore fans who remember, and who write all the Wikipedia entries, and, like, you're looking for those people
yeah,
to, like, get you back on track. But that's just because 'cause I'm, jaded.
yeah. No, no. I think you're 100% right. I think that there's just going to be at some point where the game just takes a massive like turn, maybe on the next one, who knows, where it just takes a massive turn and the lore and everything changes because nobody knows, and it'll just be one of those moments. It's like sort of like a bad TV soapy where an actor dies, so they don't want to retire the characters. They
Mhm.
just put in another actor as that character, and even though they don't look exactly the same, everyone's just like, yep, okay, we'll just go with that. And I have a feel like this series is much the same, but. Yeah, look, something to look forward to.
I'm also super bummed because I Beastie alerted me to, uh someone wrote an Assassin's Creed cookbook, and it's this person who writes, like, cookbooks based on kinda geek culture, and for some reason, this one never came out in English.
Oh,
It's out in, like, German and French, and not English, and I'm really kinda
mm,
bummed.
mm. Well, look, Mindy, we have many German listeners. I'm sure we are ranking highly on the Learn to Speak English podcast in Germany at the moment. So perhaps we can find out. But look, just as we're recording here, I see that there's some debate about the dangerous creatures of the current assassins, and I want to inform you, sir, that you do need to be careful of the chickens, don't you, Mindy? Those chickens are very very dangerous. But
Yeah, someone just started Odyssey,
yes, I
and
believe
they said,
new listener
I
Jay.
I I believe
Hmm.
people are trying to scare him and say that the chickens are the worst enemy in that game. They're not, it's the snakes.
Well, that's what you say until you get taken from behind by a chicken in the game. In the game.
Oh, wait, Odyssey no, in oh, no, there's, like, 2 snakes in Odyssey. No, I'm wrong.
Mhm.
It's Origins where you wanna watch for snakes. Chickens and yeah,
Mm.
chickens are kinda dangerous.
Yeah. Look, that is perfect. Was there anything else, Mindy, or shall we move on?
No, that's it.
Yeah, that's good effort for a few days. Look, listeners, I'm going to throw out something shocking. Because it was, actually cool over the weekend with all the rain, I decided it was time to play some VR. Don't panic, I only played like 2 hours, which was probably see me through for the next few months. But Mindy, I played something that I know you don't have VR, but something that perhaps would have interest you or would interest you in the future. And this blindfold VR, I suppose, an experience. This, I don't know if you know this.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to ask you about that.
Hmm.
It seems like it's a real downer of a game. I've said downer a lot,
Yeah.
but it does seem like a bummer of a game.
Yeah, well, it's a follow up to 1979, the Revolution game, which I believe you did play from last year.
I did not, but I know what you're talking about.
Oh, you haven't played it? Well, I would. That is not a VR game. If you haven't played that, I'd recommend it. I mean, it's a walking sim of sorts or whatever else. It's very highly narrative, story driven. It's probably also more of a B grade, in production value, but in story value, it's fantastic. It's well worth your time. And it's not a massively long plat. There's some fantastic guides or whatever else, but it's about the Black Friday, if you like, massacres and things that occurred over there in the Middle East. Now, this game is what they describe as a follow up game to this. So it doesn't directly imply that you are the character from 1979, but it's the same sort of idea in that you're a photojournalist or whatever, and you've been taking photos of the occupation in Iran or whatever else, and the overthrowing, and you've been selling or passing those pictures onto the Western media or to this effect. So obviously, that's considered treason at this time in that country, probably still to today as well. And so basically, the whole game, Mindy, or an experience, if you prefer, you're basically in a jail cell or an interrogation room in the prison, and you're being interrogated basically to admit. Did you take these photos or not? And so the whole game, the premise is you either shake your head yes or no. That's the only real interaction. So it's very stable. There's no sickness. It's also a very short game, like maybe 15 minutes or so. And look,
Mhm.
there's really only two paths. There's the yes path and the no path, or the combination of, but two basic things. But without going into it, obviously, because 15 minutes you can play it if you have VR, and I think it's a worthy experience. I think it's like $2 or $3. So for the length, the price is fine. But at the ending of the game, well, not the ending, but after the game ends, I found it very interesting because, and there is a trophy for this. So I know that people that have 100% have done it. I don't know if they just flip through it or not engage with it, but it shows all the portraits of people that have been journalists that have been locked up or killed, in the last 30-ish years or so. Around that Middle Eastern region. And obviously, I'm not going to delve into this because this is not my area of specialty. But the general underlying premise of the game is this mantra of freeing the press or whatever else, not oppressing the press. And it's a really interesting use of VR because you see their portraits and then you read a little bit about their story. And again, it's not really a game, Mindy, or whatever else, but I think it's a really great way to learn. I mean, we've had the Grand Museum or the Great Museum in Britain, they put out a VR game last year, which was a similar thing. You could walk through some of the exhibitions or whatever. And this was mainly the Egyptian exhibitions. I don't know, Mindy, I know you've been to England and London. You've probably been to the museum there.
I have, yes. Well, which one? There's a lot of them, but I assume you mean, like, the British Museum, like, the big
The
one.
British Museum, yeah, and that obviously has, for those people that have been there or know, it has an amazing Egyptian collection. Some massive things. Obviously, most of it's been appropriated and not returned. Some of it has been returned, I think, or whatever. But a lot of those things can never travel. So if you're like myself, a museum goer that relies on traveling exhibitions because we're so far away in Australia or whatever, to actually go and see that stuff in the flesh is difficult, very expensive or whatever. But amazing. So to use VR in this way to bring it into your home, it's great. So I thought that was good. And then we had a one on the impressionist artist as well recently last year.
Mhm.
I forget the name of this, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So VR is almost an educational tool here, Mindy. I think an emotive educational tool. I suppose you could say it's interesting possibilities.
I remember years ago, and I'm still trying to get an English language version for my collection, but I also know that they go for a lot of money because you could only buy it in one place.
Hmm.
Nintendo did a complete tour of the Louvre for your 3DS. You could get in there, you could zoom on the artwork and look at it from all angles, and it was the whole Louvre. And they sold, you can get a digital download of it, but they sold it on a physical cartridge in the museum. So, right next to where you can rent the audio tours, they would sell for like 20 or 30 euro this 3DS game that you could pop into your 3DS, and that would also provide you with a walkthrough for the Louvre. I think it's interesting seeing, because you and I grew up in an era where educational video games, I don't want to say cynical because I'm being cynical about it, but I guess due to some combination of lack of memory and perhaps lack of effort, they really were just kind of really bare bones, kind of didn't were very formulaic in the way they tried to teach things. I like seeing in these new generations games that try to educate in interesting ways, interesting and immersive ways. Like I said before in the podcast, like I really liked the game Africa. And depending on how much you engage with it, it's either you're just going around taking pictures of animals, or you can actually, there's whole dossiers you could read about these animals. And I'm sure, despite the questionable English translation, I'm sure that Aquanaut's memories, whenever I get around to playing it, will be the same, but with fish.
Yeah, it's just more accessible, I think, too, which is exciting. And I agree with you. Like, I mean, embracing things like VR. We're getting VR tourism. I've been reading about as well. It's just it's an exciting avenue, perhaps, for this technology. And one of the things that I find interesting, because you're talking about the Louvre there, and I remember when I first went there, at the grand age of 21 or something, and I remember seeing the Mona Lisa, and it would have been built up as such a big thing for me. I thought this was going to be a massive thing, and it's really small.
No, it's such a pain, just because I have been my memory of seeing the Mona Lisa is not looking at the painting. It was looking at the backs of like
Yes.
400 heads crowded into this
Yeah.
massive room to look at the Mona Lisa, which is a like when you think of the size of a painting, it's that size. Like it's not this massive. Your TV, if you took it and turned it vertically, that's probably the size of probably bigger than the Mona Lisa.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, being privileged enough to live in Europe for a little while in my early 20s or whatever, I was very lucky because I went to a lot of these places in the winter, and I mean that's a fantastic tip if you're traveling. Obviously, you miss out on all the gardens and things like that, but when you go in winter, Mindy, there's nobody there.
And I think that's the thing, because I did it with my family, and we definitely did it during a tourism, which was a mistake. But I agree, I do try to travel off peak for that exact reason. There's very few things that I haven't been gardens, of course, but, like, there's very few things that I couldn't enjoy off season that I think I would have enjoyed more during peak season.
I remember when I was over there, and my parents came over to visit, and we went and saw we went to see the Sistine Chapel, and again at the at the age of 21, some of this stuff doesn't have the power that it has when you go back when you're maybe in your late 20s or early 30s. Or it definitely did for me going back, but there was no one. I remember walking through, and my mother was like, "This is insane! Like you can just stop and look up. You're not being pushed along." And yeah, so there's a lot to be said, I think, for going off season. With the exception of it being freezing cold and there are no lovely gardens. But but other than that, it's good. But look, we're deviating slightly. So let's come back to my other VR game, Mindy. And so this is not as culturally substantial, perhaps. And this is the this is the Hatsune, or for me it is the Hatsune Miku VR game. So this is not the first VR game they've put out here. This is a direct port from PC. The first game that came out was more of a concert experience, if you like. You wave the glow stick. It wasn't a rhythm game as you think. This is more of a rhythm game, although it's different from the push button QTE style that you'd be familiar with. This game. This game is a game where you're holding the move sticks and you're moving them around to hit the notes as they fly at you from speakers. So, Mindy, I'm an aging gentleman, as everybody knows. My tip for this game would be make sure you don't stand too close to the TV in VR. Get as far back as you can, because those notes, they really come at you fast. Very, very fast. But look, aside from that, it's good. It's a funny thing because there are so many songs now in the Hatsune catalog it's difficult when they release a product that includes so few of them. And I know it's not a full price game, but I know it's not a cheap game either. And look, they're going down the path of releasing the DLC packs, which are not cheap, containing, I believe, like 5 or 6 songs each. So that's a consideration. I don't know if they can plan on releasing the whole catalog like this over a year or two, or maybe a definitive version later on. But that's something to consider. I would definitely check the catalog. It's mainly the older songs as well. So if you're used to Diva X or the Future Tone that came out recently that has everything packaged and up-res, you're going to be a little disappointed. As far as trophies go, it's going to be very difficult as well. So there are basically no trophies for clearing bass songs. You have to get at least an S or a double S or a triple S on both normal and hard. And so to get a triple S, you can't miss a note. And there's a lot of notes. And the detection is not bad, but again, it's a little bit tricky because some of them come from a low speaker. And sometimes, Mindi, unfortunately, Hatsune is standing in front of the speaker, so you don't see the note until it passes through her, which means your reaction time your reaction time is so. Look, I think it's possibly it plays way better on PC and Oculus, but it's fine. It's not unplayable by any stretch. And if you're doing it not so much for the trophies, just for the fun, I think it's really good. Similar to Beat Saber, you can definitely work up a sweat with this game. Your arms are going to be moving like an octopus very quickly. So there is a lot of merit if you're a core fan, but if you're not, then perhaps the Beat Saber is the better option here, especially when you're looking at having to buy DLC packs for songs and content with that. And then perhaps what I'll do, Mindi, is I'll throw in a little bit more Jet Girls, because I've broken the back of this Japanese jet ski game now, and I understand what I'm doing loosely. Basically.
This game that the viewers have not heard you talk about because we talked about it in the podcast we recorded that hasn't come out yet.
We did, and I'll possibly lift that out of it because I think at that time I wasn't that familiar with it. But this is listeners, the Kandagawa Jet Girls. So this is available on the Japanese store or on the Hong Kong store coming in March. My suggestion is if this game does interest you and you're happy to wait for the localization through the Hong Kong store to do so, it will be substantially cheaper. In fact, there's also an extra 10% discount at the moment if you pre-order that way. So just be prepared. It is for some reason a little bit higher, or substantially higher on the Japanese store. But that being aside, they are selling 3 versions that contain different variations of costumes. Obviously, for the Plat, you only need the first version. This is in full Japanese, and I believe I suppose we can't really call it a localization. The port that will come out on the Hong Kong store will also be in Japanese. I believe it's not being localized, perhaps, 2 or 3 years maybe, but not at this point. But look, that doesn't really matter because it's not a VN. There is a substantial story here. So like I do hope one day it is localized. There's a lot of story content, but there are no choices in this. So that just plays as cutscenes. But the premise of the game is that it is a racing game. It is a jet ski racing game. There are not a lot of jet ski racing games out there. That's why this game in particular piqued my interest. It is anime. It's by the creators of the Senran Kagura series, Mindi. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this series.
I played the rhythm one.
Yeah. So you'd be you know what to expect, listeners. There's a lot of girls in bathing suits and a lot of water pistols as well. So the premise is there are always 2 girls on the jet ski. One's driving, one's shooting the pistol, and you basically move between. You're driving, basically the whole time, unless you want to shoot, in which case you switch to the back one and the AI takes over. But you can only shoot for sort of a little bit of a sequence. So you're basically driving the whole way. So what interests me about this game is that it's a little bit difficult to figure out at first if your Japanese is not strong, but it is a very easy plat. I'd say about 8 to 10-ish hours or so. There's quite a lot of races. The races start off very easy, but they do progressively get hard. So you will be required to upgrade your jet ski if you like. There's no value in switching jet skis because the upgrades are locked to each jet ski. So you're better off just to pick one and stick with it. I don't want to go into too much depth other than I know that there are a couple of listeners that will play this game. I know they're just waiting on hopefully some sort of person to take a stab at guiding it. I can assure you, Mr. Reddy, that will not be me, but I'm happy to drop a couple of points here really quickly for anyone that does wish to do it. My advice would be when you start the game to go straight to the mini game section. This is on the on the buying part section, but the bottom option for some reason. That's the best way. There are a few trophies tied to it, but the best way to really quickly acquire money and points so you can upgrade. If you were to do that from the start, the races would be really easy. Each race has 3 missions down the bottom. Basically, the missions rotate between finishing in first, hitting everybody with a weapon, picking up so many weapons, or maintaining a speed or whatever. If you have basic Japanese, you'll be able to read that. Although I'm sure you could Google translate that as well, if need be. You need to finish 128 missions, but usually you have to win the race to move forward. Anyway, there are many races, so getting the 128 is not going to be difficult. You don't need to 100% each one or anything. There's also a time trial section. Some of them are a bit tight, but then again, if you upgrade, they become really easy. And look, what I like about this game, Mindy, is as you come to expect with a Japanese game of any sort, there's just craziness within the races. Like there are these massive blow up, rabbits that appear out in front of you for no reason at random times, and other weird things. There are balloons all over the course for no reason, and it's just fantastic. So look, it's a really fun racing game, and I would recommend it. And it's a game that you don't need to be worried about if you don't speak Japanese. You would be able to work your way through this quite comfortably. And then the last thing, Mindy, might just update my, I don't know, maybe 3 monthly update, it seems to be, for the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. It is moving ever closer, listeners. They dropped another DLC. I believe this is the second to last DLC. They dropped each DLC they're dropping is free if you own the base game. But of course, this game is not available, my understanding, on the EU or NA stores yet, only on the JP or HK. Of course, the HK Asian store does play in English if that concerns you. And the new update, Mindy, was for the sport climbing match, their rock climbing. And what's really cool about this is, like, you can do the event. It's very simple. Trophies are very simple. But they actually have a video of the area in Japan where it is and them building the thing and a little bit about it. So it's almost an educational game, Mindy, as well as a sporting game.
Not as educational as the other stuff.
No. Look, and as a friendly tip, the biggest problem if you are going to play this game, it is an easy plat, is that there is a significant amount of online. Now, it only takes a couple of hours, but the problem is that the online it's sort of dead, or if you do the ranked, it's alive, but they're very, very good, the people, because I'd say they've been playing quite a bit of it. So you probably do need to boost that. So that's something to consider if you are going to play it. If you boost it, you can probably boost the online in an hour and a half, and it's very simple. I think, Mindy, we've done justice to what we have been playing in this short turnaround.
That's a good run.
It is a good run. Yeah, we're having fun. I just keep looking at all these games that are lining up to be played, though. But I don't know. There's just not enough time. We shall have to see. We shall have to see. But, Mindy, why don't we add more games to that pile now for our listeners?
Oh, gosh.
I know. By having a look at this drop here, what are you liking of these new releases? What would you like to tell us about?
Only one really caught my eye this week, and it was Mosaic. You live in a monotonous and repetitive lonely life in a cold, overpopulated, ever-expanding city, moving through anonymous crowds on your way to another long day at a mega corporation. You have no real sense of meaning until one crucial day when strange things start to happen on your commute to work and everything changes. So very, kind of generic description. I will note this was made by Krillbite Studio, and they did Among the Sleep, which is that kind of first-person puzzle, slightly horror adventure game where you're the baby and everything's from the baby's point of view, which I liked. Hopefully, this one has a platinum. The story behind this one was they went into crunch time, which is not good, but they did go into crunch time for Among the Sleep, and they said that while they were commuting to work, they started noticing all these people going to work, and it kind of inspired this game. There's actually on the blog, there's an interview or an article written by one of the developers, and said, everyone looked miserable. Everyone was just obeying orders to get their paycheck to stay alive for another month. From this concept, we designed a game where you are a small and insignificant piece of a large machinery. You are trapped in a system where you have no control over. Oh, you are trapped in a system you have no control over that forces you to work and obey to survive. It's a game that tries to tackle a lot of themes: everyday mundanity, urban isolation, the flip side of technology, and the place of the individual in modern society. So, very, again, this might just have to title this week's podcast Debbie Downer, because again, I'm going to bring up another Downer thing.
Well, to be honest, that just sounds like my life. So
This sounds interesting. It's interesting to see, because you play games to escape these kind of things.
yeah.
So the few games like that do tackle this reality, what comes to mind is Stanley Parable was fantastic. Hopefully they do this in an interesting and good way, and it's not just this very forgettable thing.
I wonder too if there might be a bit of very black or dark humor in this game, because I see that they're selling the base game or whatever on the store. It comes out today at time of recording, listeners, but they're also selling a DLC version, or perhaps a season pass version that includes the DLC. And the DLC, Mindy's called the 1%, and it comes with.
I
Did
saw
you
that,
see
and
that?
one of the things is like less ads in game.
Yes.
Like that's the running thing, that your smartphone or whatever has ads on
Yeah.
it. Like, I don't think they're real corporate. I think they're BS ads that they made up.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But like the 1% thing is that they take that off of your phone.
Yes, yeah. And I think there's one there too. You get a special business tie, because how can you get ahead without the business tie? And like it's yeah. So I wonder if they're poking a bit of fun as well. I don't know, but interesting.
I think you'd have to be with this kind
I
of.
hope so. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I believe that does have a plat as well. So that will be interesting to see how it comes down. Good, good. Well, look, I'm going to throw. There's a big one. I think we might just talk back and forth a little bit in a moment. Before we get there, I'll just surface treatment a couple listeners. The Australian Open game is getting a worldwide release. Obviously, it's been out in Australia since the Open a few weeks ago. Look, if you're looking for tennis games, I know I've talked about it briefly before. There is not a lot of choice. This company is really the only people now playing in this area. If you played the first one and you felt a little bit burnt, it released, it wasn't fantastic. This is a big step up, but it's not a simulation. It is an arcadey game. You don't have a huge amount of control over your shots. Of course, all the selections are there, but the power bar is. It's a hark back to older tennis games. Yeah, so don't expect a full simulation here. But having said that, it's really fun. There's a career mode that, it does have a lot of the licensed events as well, especially a lot of the small Challenger Tour events, which is, look, it's pretty cool and immersive. What else? It has the slams with both the singles and the doubles in there as well. It does have these things like little media events, which basically like cutscene QTE events or whatever at the end of the big tournaments. Yes, it has a money system, a ranking up system. It has mini game tutorial mode and stuff. But look, it's by no means am I dumping on it. There's plenty of content here. It does have an online mode as well. If you like tennis games, this is really your only option. But it's a big improvement on the previous one. The trophy list is fairly easy. There is one sort of luck-based trophy, I suppose, where you have to win 10 points, where the ball hits the net and you win the point. So the problem with this trophy is trophy whores, as you know, most people who are just going for the trophies would play this game on easy. It's very unlikely you're going to get enough of those situations. My understanding is playing in easy, you're probably going to need to play in hard. It seems to be more likely. The way the AI plays will be flatter then, so you're more likely yourself when you return to hit the net, and then it's just luck if it falls over or not. So that's something to consider. But if you're happy to invest the time, it will probably come naturally. And then, Mindy, I know you haven't played the first iteration yet of this game, but it is very enjoyable. The Glass Masquerade 2 is coming, Illusions.
Oh yeah.
This is look, the first one was lovely. It was a jigsaw puzzle game. It did have a timer, but nothing was time-based. None of the trophies were, so you could take it as long as you liked. So that meaning you didn't need a guide. Look, it wasn't that short. I think it took around 6 to 7 hours, the first one. So I'd assume this one is similar. The first one was all based on just stained glass windows, recreating them in jigsaw pieces from around the world. And the trophies, Mindy, were a little funny in the first one because there are easier and harder puzzles, but the trophies sort of rewarded gold for some of the easy ones, but only a bronze for some of the hard ones. So it was a bit mixed up, but in the end, it doesn't matter if you're doing them all anyway. You're going to get the plat. So something to look forward to that comes this week, listeners. And then, look, I don't think either of us are that interested. Darksiders Genesis.
I'm still interested in where they got their money, but THQ, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this game goes because look, I'm not a fan of I'm not a fan of the series, but I felt that Darksiders 3 I got burnt on. I really didn't think it was acceptable, and that's coming from a B-grade studio. Look, I know they've patched it, and I know you have to set your expectations for that, but I don't know. I hope this is somewhat improved on that. But look, we shall see. But some stuff they do is great, some is not. It's like a lucky dip with them, Minty. You never know what you're going to get. And I think that's it. So, look, why don't we move to? It's not really a topic this week, listeners. I thought we'd just back and forward a little bit because, again, I know Mindy hasn't played it, but we'll just talk to the general concepts here, and that is, of course, of dreams. I speak of Mindy. So, this has been out in early access for some time. It is finally now being rolled out to full complete access from Thursday. I'm going to say Thursday, the 14th of February. So I don't think much is being added. I think they're just basically flipping the switch. I do understand there will be a trophy list, but as of time of recording, it is not. It is not live, so we're not sure. So, Mindy, I know you haven't played this game, but I want to pose a question to you. Do you think
Yes.
do you think there is a space on the PlayStation, because this is a PS4 Sony exclusive? Do you think there is a place on the system for not a game, but for basically tools to build your own game with limitations?
I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, forget things like Minecraft. I mean, look at like Mario Maker. That's the whole premise of the game is here's a toy box,
Mm.
build your own Mario levels. I think the success of it is in how what you can do with that. Can you publish them as community levels? Can other people play them? You know, if it's I'm just gonna make levels for myself and only I can play them, that thing's gonna fail very quickly. But and especially because this is Media Molecule, like the Little Big Planet community is still very, very involved in making um
Mm.
new
Mm.
levels and such. So I don't see why this couldn't be a success. I Whether it's gonna be this massive AAA seller, probably not. It's already a niche thing. But I would not look at this game and say this is destined to be absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it's look, it's an interesting thing, listeners. So those that have followed, it's obviously been in development, in various forms for over 7 years now. So a huge amount of money has gone into this, and it's obvious that Sony here have let Media Molecule make a platform. I mean, that's what this is. My interest, Mindy, here is that at this stage, nothing is monetized within the game, and I haven't read to the effect that anything will be monetized. But one of my one of the things that I wonder about with this game is it going to attract people to create content knowing that at this point in time they can't really sell it within the system, and will this become in effect like an app store for Sony for people to create their own indie games and sell them? How would you feel about that if it did proceed down that sort of a path?
You mean this thing is powerful enough or built to be an actual game engine?
This, in effect, is a game engine with limitations. Yes, so it's not a game. There is, just to give you an idea, if you don't know anything about this, the premise of this is that when you load in, there is a 2-hour story mode, which is basically a feature film. That's how they describe it. 2 to 3 hours with sort of minimal interaction, which sort of shows you the powers of the system. One of the interesting things is that basically the whole time you're playing it, there's a watermark on the bottom right hand side that says this was built in the Dreams engine. So once you load that up, everything you see was being built in that engine. So that implies that anybody could make this just with this program alone. So the program itself is divided into an area where you can play other people's creations. You can make your own creations. There's a home space which you can sort of personalize. That's your area, but limited personalization. But again, this begs the question of, well, down the track, will items perhaps be sold so that you can personalize this? And then there's a community jam session, which is basically a competition run by Media Molecule, which seems to change about once a month or so. And it has a theme, and basically people submit their creations in line with this theme, and then it's voted on by anyone who plays it, and there are winners or whatever. So the last theme for last month was food related. I think the current one is sort of the medieval age, so you make content with that theme in mind. So, Mindy, yes, the system is powerful enough to make a game. Obviously, people are still learning it. You're not going to be making a AAA game in here, but there, from what I've played, and I've played a fair few different ones now. I've played things that are better than what is being released on the PlayStation in this, sort of, I don't, want to say, but I suppose the spam categories. So, how would you feel if something like this almost became like a, for want of a better word, an app store or a Steam front for small indie people to make money on?
I don't know. I don't feel hugely qualified to speculate much because I'm not a developer. But I have seen kind of the
Hmm.
fallout of Unity, CryEngine, that kind of thing, where some good games are made using these engines and these assets. And generally the idea is people, make the assets, you buy them, and then you make them your own. So if it's done in that kind of good faith, I
Hmm.
think you can see some really good things coming out of it. But if this turns out, and I'm hoping it won't, I'm hoping there's some sort of quality control. But given some of the things that end up on PSN, I'm not so sure. But my fear is that if this does become a full blown kind of, you build your game in it and you put it out to sell, you get people just kind of buying the cheapest thing they can and cobble together something and putting out for $1 to just look appeasing, be like, "Oh, I'll buy it. It's just $1." That having been said, the more I'm thinking about it now that I say it, I'm not so sure that can happen because that's effectively what that is a backdoor onto Sony's store. And for all that Sony may or may not have quality control, it is do still apparently need to know people to get your stuff onto the store, whether it's any good or not. It's not like I can just go to, Sony.com and click a button that says I want to sell my game and pay $50 or whatever, and then all of a sudden my game's on the store.
See, now I premise this, listeners, but nowhere in the I read very carefully the disclaimer that you agree to at the start. I've read numerous things. I've listened to some interviews they've given. They don't talk about monetizing this in any way, but I struggle to see how something like this can possibly work long term without something like this. I think, Mindy, you make really excellent points. I have not tried to create anything myself, but my understanding is you can use pre-created assets from other people. So basically, I have a feeling this is a situation that whatever you make is effectively owned by Dreams. So, and a similar thing, there's been issues with the Facebook and photos and all this sort of stuff of who owns what. Technically, this opens up a whole door of who does own what in this. The other the other thing that I wonder with something like this from having played these things is that I think it's an inspiration machine, to be honest. I think for creatives, this is a really interesting premise. And I know we're now moving away perhaps from gamers because I think there's a difference here. If you're gaming for fun or whatever else, you might not be interested in being inspired to go and create something. You're just enjoying your time and entertainment. But I think for better or worse, what this Dreams really will become is some sort of an inspiration creator for creators, which look is a fantastic thing for the people that have figured out a way to monetize their work. But and perhaps it is a fantastic thing for people that just want to create stuff to give away for free and to inspire. But I think the line becomes blurred. Like I played, for example, Mindy, last night I played three experiences over a couple of hours. I played this boxing ballet. So basically, it was just a boxing. You push one button and you smash the other guy or whatever. And they didn't seem to put up a fight, which means that perhaps it's still in development as well. A lot of these things are not finished; they're at various stages. But the interesting mechanic was that your character was doing ballet moves as you jumped. And there's silhouettes and stuff. Now, look, after 3 or 4 minutes, you'd seen everything, but I was like, I've never seen anything like that. So now I have this idea about a boxing ballet game. I then played this thing called Cow Rubber. It was called, and it was basically a runner, if you like, where the cow runs around the track, and you can only turn left by pushing the X button down, and you sort of have to release it. If the cow hits the fence, it's electric; it dies. So it's how many sort of laps you can do. Again, 4 or 5 minutes. But I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, this could be the next rat game. Someone could just take this idea now and develop it outside of Dreams. And to be honest, it looked good, looked better than some of the things I've played. And so at this point, I'd played 3 or 4 of these little experiences, and I'm like, I feel inspired, but 3 or 4 minutes was enough. And then I did stumble across, because also it puts up randomly, so you could get a bit of anything, which this is interesting to me. But I stumbled across this thing called the Water Gardens, and there are a lot of experiences like this that title themselves as visual adventures. So they're a collection of assets or whatever put together, and they can be a walking sim or a flyover or whatever else. I played a few of them, but this one in particular I found good. And if you are to get this, Dreams, I would recommend searching for this one, The Water Gardens. It's a light puzzler and platformer as well, Mindy. So you travel between the islands. Now, this was the first, and I'm sure there are many like this, but this is the first thing that I saw on there that almost felt fully fledged to me. I probably played it for 45 minutes or so. So there are some things there. that are fledged. But I suppose, and I know I'm talking a lot here, Mindy. I apologize. I suppose that it's a very difficult thing to recommend to anyone. But if you are a creator, I almost think this is maybe necessary in a way, or and I hesitate to say this. This is a potentially a great way if you're stuck on what to write next in your music or your art or whatever, to come on and see what other people are doing, and in effect be influenced by a platform that you don't have to owe anything to. You don't have to credit. You don't have to do anything. And I know that's a dangerous and dicey area. I'm not talking about ripping off exactly what they're doing, but in effect, it's a bunch of ideas that nobody is really utilizing or technically owns. So I have a lot of problems in that area. I don't know if you see where I'm coming from there, Mindy.
Yeah, I get it. It really is a very gray area when you talk about getting that kind of inspiration.
It is, yeah. So look, I don't know. Is it worth your time? Obviously, if you're a trophy hunter, it's going to hugely depend on the list. I mean, if the list is tied up in creating things, it could be, it could and will probably will be a very long platinum. There's also leveling in the game, like an RPG leveling system, where it goes up depending on how many of these experiences you play or you create or you vote on. So you can expect there's going to be a lot of trophies to that. What I think, or how I think I will use this game is I would like to continue to drop in maybe once a week or so, Mindy, with a nice glass of white, and just play 2 or 3 experiences for about 15 minutes, half an hour, just to see what's going. But I'm not treating it as I'm going to find an amazing game, or I'm going to sit here and play some massive game. It's just that experience. And I think if you go in with that idea, and you're happy to drop, well, I'm not exactly sure what it's listing at. I think 40 Australian or somewhere in this vicinity. If you're happy to drop that on this, then it's an evolving platform that is interesting, I suppose, Mindy, to say the least. Interesting. Shall we? Would you like to add anything there or to that?
No, I'd be interested to see. I don't know if I would probably. I guess I'd probably drop on someone's, like, if someone was live streaming it just to see it.
Yes.
I don't think it's for me. I'm not that kind of creative. Like, I'm pretty comfortable in stating that I am, I guess, verbally creative, linguistically, with words, not so much with visuals. Visuals or musically creative, which are things that I think you would probably benefit more from this if you were that kind of creative.
Yeah, I mean, one of the cool things we didn't touch on, but it does have this collaboration feature. So say, Mindy, you could put on your profile that you're a writer. You don't do any of this other stuff, and then other people might come across you, and again, it would be difficult if you haven't created anything. So I suppose you would come across them, and you would offer, and they might be writing, I don't know, a walking sim, but they don't have a story. So you could maybe write the story for them. So this is the other gray area. There's so much cross collaboration, and people can actually they can choose who they let work on their things. So I can see how it would evolve. I think my other problem from a creative, and I would be very interested to hear from other people that working in this field, perhaps professionally, various mediums, is that if I'm gonna write something, or I've got to write something, commissioned to write something, I'm gonna use my Pro Tools, I'm gonna use my Adobe or whatever, I'm gonna use serious programs, because I know it's gonna take 8 or 10 hours, and I'm not gonna fuck around with something that is not up to the job. Now, I'm not saying this isn't, but this isn't Unity. This isn't a full game engine that people are making, and so there are going to be limitations. So if you're going to invest, hundreds of hours creating things, why wouldn't you just get the proper programs and do it properly? So I think that's another issue. I think this is really awesome if you want to just mess around for a couple of hours. But if you're gonna make something substantial or put hundreds of hours into a project, which you would have to do to make something of size, I wonder if you would just gravitate to using the more established programs. I don't know, Mindy. Maybe I'm going too far off here on my thoughts.
Well, it seems like maybe it's more like a tutorial, like a write out here, and if you find you've got a knack for it, then start getting into the big programs.
I think that's definitely fair to say. And look, it could be a great way to network as well. I mean, and meet people that you could future go on. But if you're not, as you say, a creative in this sense, like perhaps Mindy here and looking to create something, or even myself, I'm not going to use it in that avenue. It is fun, maybe just to drop in and see what people are doing. And the funny thing, Mindy, I was playing this one we were just talking about here. And one of the things, like, there was platforming, and I was really conscious of not falling off the side of the map or the side of a bit because I'm like, I'm going to get stuck in there for sure because this is, like an indie thing and really low budget potentially. And, then I'll be stuck and there's, I don't know how I'll get out and that'll be the end of it. But I did fall in a few times and it was very seamless. So I think the building blocks are built in such a way that, I'm sure there are glitches, but it's almost glitch free as well. So that's encouraging. Because I'm sure we've both played games where you're conscious of the fact that, if you go down there, you may never get out the way the game is. So.
Very true.
It's something to think about. But look, not that would ever happen, Mindi, in our spam games. So perhaps
nice segue. That's a good segue.
Beautiful, isn't it? So let's move into our spam of the week, Mindi. Now, I believe you already identified the rat game of the week. Do you remember?
I did, and I've already forgotten what it was.
Surely not
it's,
that.
It's
that
something
forgettable.
Remastered.
Very good. Reed remastered, I believe. Yes.
Reed remastered.
Yeah. So we can expect that. What else are we liking for this week?
Well, I know it's spam because you've platinumed it several times. Is 0000, right?
It's always a safe assumption. If I've platinumed it, it's got to be spam. It is, yeah. It's a 1-bit flow platformer. It's the Ratalaika game of the previous week. And Mindi, I think you would like this game. For someone that's used to platforming this, maybe 20 or 30 minutes. For someone that's like myself, that's not, it can still be done in 40 to 50 minutes easily. 100 levels, but you only need to pass 34 of them. And Mindi, it's a very fast game as well. If you die, you get thrown straight to the next level, and all the levels are random in the order they come up. So if you get one you don't like or it's too hard, just die and move on to the next one. It's good. I think you would enjoy it, and plenty of stacks as well to improve your skills if you're struggling in it. I'm going to throw out this one, but it's spam with a warning, Mindi. And the warning is no.
It might be the same one I'm looking at right now.
Okay, well, you go first. It might be.
No, you go first.
Okay, so it's only 100% game, and it's I know that you mentioned this.
Then it's not the one I'm looking at.
Well, but you have mentioned this briefly, I think. I'm not sure if it was on air or not, though. And this is the Zomb game, Zomb, which is a zombie game, but with Zomb. So this is a Minecraft shooter, if you like. You're shooting the Minecraft zombies or whatever. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the trophies can be earned in the first 3 minutes. But the reaching level 20 trophy, I don't believe is glitched, but it is very difficult, that trophy. So look, if you're happy to farm, all but one gold trophy, that is for you. That is only available on the NA store, about $10. But if you're looking for the 100%, that could be a challenging spam with warning.
Spam with warning. Please quit making new spam subcategories. I think the only one I pulled out was potentially is this Project Starship, because it looks fine until you start getting to the high score trophies.
Yes.
So tentatively call this spam.
You could always call it spam with warning.
Stop trying to make it happen.
Oh, look, it's natural. I do believe that it may not be as hard as you think, because I believe 1 or 2 people may have played at that game in 30 or 40 minutes. So it may be, maybe there's something going on there. Maybe it is doable. Is there anything else that feels like enough? We can confirm that the Five Nights at Freddy's EU, the glitch does work the same as the NA. If that 100% interests you and you want to cheese it, by all means do. I think that might be it this week, Mindi.
I think that's it. Yeah.
What about we should give Mr. Olsero, the pioneer, the traveler, the adventurer. Some people might even call him the guinea pig. He goes forward into other stores and finds games to plat before the list goes up, and he has found that this Cat Quest 2, it has another stack, which he's I don't know if you've seen this, Mindi. He's calling it the Korean stack because he's platted it apparently, and it's all happening. So that's exciting news. That quality spam, perhaps, with multiple stacks now. Cat Quest 2.
I don't think Cat's Quest is spam. I think it's just an easy platinum.
Okay. Yes. Spam that is not spam. That could be the next category for next week. We will have to see. Yeah. But look, there's plenty there, listeners. Why not? And look, if you're looking for a more in-depth look at a few games, why not check out the Push2Plat Level Cap podcast, which will be coming out on Fridays, focusing specifically on a couple of games and how to earn those trophies and maybe some sneaky methods to do so. But Mindi, it is finally time to go over to the Push2Plat Platinum Club. Now, please feel free to comment here. There's quite a few to get through because we haven't done this for a while. So So be prepared, I suppose. And we're going to start with Dino Raw here, Mindy. Number 841, Invert. Nice and easy game with the spin level cheat code. Bosses can be a little tricky, but still doable in 30 minutes. Do you know this game, Mindy? Invert?
I do.
I don't
I've
know
heard
this.
of it. I've heard that. Yeah, that's exactly what I've heard. Is that it's the bosses that are a problem.
But still doable in 30 minutes. So excellent. Congratulations.
Yeah, around that.
Congratulations, sir. He may be skilled in these games, so we better be careful. He plays a lot of spam. So let's move forward to EDJ3DG, the Iguana Bros. Now he did what has he got here? Sayonara Wild Heart. So this is the punk inspired runner music rhythm game, Minty. It's a beautiful game. So congratulations, sir. I believe most of the trophies for that game too are not just on finishing the songs. They're sort of on different requirements. So a guide. A guide is potentially needed. 2 stacks, EUNA. Gaz Davis, number 47, Mindy, Infamous First Son.
Ooh, good one.
Very good, sir. Dear Easty is back. Number 621, Tropico 6. Very fun, but tricky to be a dictator. And number 625, Ghostbusters Remastered.
Well, hopefully they don't add the multiplayer to that.
Yes, yes.
I'll play it if they don't add multiplayer.
Well, it's been a little while, well, maybe not that long, a few months. So maybe another few months and it'll be safe. You will find out. Unless it's incredibly late dropping DLC, like a year or two.
I don't know, man. I mean,
Okay.
remember Ghostbusters? Or not Ghostbusters. Jumanji
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Yes.
launched without the They're like, we'll put the multiplayer in later.
Yes. The only issue with that was it also launched with trophies for the multiplayer. Yet it didn't have the multiplayer.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
That was even better. But yeah, no, that is complete now, though. Clayzer, we have number 107, God of War 3 Remastered, and number 108, That's You. That is, now what's the word for that, Mindy? That's one of those PlayStation games.
Not share play. PlayLink, right?
Yes. Yeah, PlayLink with the phones and stuff. Tablets, yeah. Well done, sir. Now, brace yourself here, Mindy. We're going to be here for a while. The Scottish Nub has been busy here. It probably took him about an hour, I imagine. So, number 337, Milo's Quest, NA. Number 338, Word Sweeper by Paugi, Asia. Number 339, Pick-a-Pix Classic 2, Asia. Oh, actually, that could be longer. Is that, Mindy? They're longer, those ones, aren't they?
Yeah, they're easy, but they're longer. So if you want to call them spam, they're on the longer end of spam here.
Okay, I revised my estimate. Maybe it took Scottish Nub 2 hours this week to earn these. Number 340, Foxyland 2. Number 341, 342, Foxyland 2, NA and Vita. Number 343, Just a Phrase by Paugi, and he 100%ed the 5 nights at, I put here 5 nights at Freebies, which technically it is now with that glitch, but 5 nights at Freddy's, that is the NA and EU stack. Congratulations. Congratulations, sir. He's going to be on 500 in no time at this rate. That's impressive. The Real Apex, number 40, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. What an amazing story. I enjoyed joining Farah in her journey for freedom. Well, would recommend playing the campaign in this one masterpiece in its own way. Okay, lovely. It's actually quite good. I know you wouldn't play these games, Mindy, but the story is actually good. That I would agree. Alpha, I told you there was a lot, Mindy. How are you going? You still with us?
I'm flagging. I'm still here.
Good. Yes, it's sometimes it's just too much spam. I know. You know, there's some great games in here too. Alpha Soldier, number 73, Foxyland 2, and number 74, Just a Phrase Paugi. It beggars belief, Mindy, that neither of us are on the payroll for these companies at this point in time. But
I know, right?
But maybe
still haven't heard back about Liar Princess.
No,
you might need to stop flogging that one.
That's right. Look, Mindy, I've been wanting not to geek out. We have been joined by the wonderful Ike Menzies here, currently a very high-ranked player, but more importantly, a game buyer, Mindy, which I find impressive, known as Mr. 2% himself. He's the one person that has a lower completion percentage than me, I understand. No, that's touch and go. So we will see. And here's our platinum number 1,000. Well, sorry, I'm not used to saying that. 1,343, Arc of Alchemist, which is a new sort of hit and beat 'em up style game with some town building, I believe, that dropped last week. That looks very interesting. So that's interesting to know. Thank you, Ike. Zador VP, number 451, The Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance Tactics. Another rare tactics style game. It was pretty good, and the New Game Plus run was fun and easy. Most interesting thing about this game is that apparently there's a prequel TV series on Netflix for the Dark Crystal that I didn't even know about. So that's fascinating. That's something to add.
Well, there's also a movie that's actually quite good.
Yes, no, I've seen the movie. I just had no idea that Netflix had done their own sort of series on it or whatever else. And now there's the game. I'm not sure where that fits into the cycle, but interesting. Good. So we survived the platinum. Shoutouts. Listeners, if you didn't get read out and you want to, please feel free to jump into the community. It's on the PlayStation 4, the Push2Plat Platinum community, and it is free. It's free to join. So please do. And as you can see, if you have something you want to say about it, just leave a little comment as well, and we'll possibly read it out as well. We're always interested in finding new things. So Mindi,
Yes.
we started off with animals.
Are we going to end with animals?
I think it's time. I think it's time to call it. Shall we do that? Shall we move on? Retire gracefully into the night?
I think let's call it.
Good. So, Mindi, if we're trying to find you, where can we find you?
Twitter at themindisacity. I also have a Kofi page, ko-fi.com/themindisacity. It's just a tip jar. All funds to that go towards games that I can buy to write guides for, because I don't get, except for Artifacts Monday, which hasn't sent me their new game, which worries me a bit, I don't get dev codes. So everything I write guides for has been coming out of my own pocket.
And listeners, if you're trying to find this show, it is on all good podcast providers. If you want to say hi, you can reach out to us on Twitter at push2plat, push2plat, or you can send us an email at push2plat@gmail.com. If you've got a second and you can sub to us on YouTube, it all helps out. As I said, even if you don't watch it there, come and jump in the PlayStation 4 community if it so interests you. Patreon will be live probably close to the time you listen to it or shortly after. But as I said, not accepting charges until March. Have a read, have a think about it. If you're in a position to help us out, that is fantastic. If you're not, I fully understand. Just spread the love, write us a review, tell somebody. So until next time, Mindi, have a wonderful week.
Bye.